Hello there, and welcome to this tutorial on how to create a save game system inside of Unreal Engine 4 that will allow you to save and load player info inside of your game, such as the player's health, their experience, their hunger level, how many coins they've collected, and so on. Now before we actually get started, I'm going to show you really quick what I've created so far. So if I click play up here, you can see that we have this default third person level, and up at the top left you can see that we have a progress bar which represents the player's health, and we have a counter which keeps track of how many coins they've collected. Now if I walk over here and actually collect one of these coins, you can see that it increments to 1, so we now have 1 coin in our pocket, and we can collect another coin, we now have 2. We can collect this one over here, we have 3, and if we run into one of these fires, it actually damages our health. So you can see that once we encounter this fire, it blows up in our face and our health is decreased by 25%. Now I'm going to collect a couple more coins here, and I'm going to run into this fire, and there we go, our health is now down to 50%. I'm going to collect this coin here, run into this fire, our health is now down to a critically low level, it's down to 25%. Going to collect this 7th coin here, and we're going to run into this fire, and you can see here that we have died. Now this is great, but the problem here is that nothing is saved. So you can see here that if we click respawn, we start right where we left off. We have 0 coins, and if we had other settings such as hunger or power level, those would also be lost and the player can't make progress. So let's hit escape, and the first thing we're going to do inside of here is actually create a new folder, and we'll call this blueprints. Now inside of here, let's right click and create a new blueprint, and the class we're going to use is save game. Select, and we'll call this save player info. Now open that up, and we're going to create 2 variables inside of here. The first will be player health, and the second will be player coins. Now both of these are going to be integers. We'll now head over to our third person character and open that up, and you can see inside of here we have all of the default movement scripting here. And up here at the top I've added an event tick which keeps track of the player's health and whether or not they should die. So inside of here we basically need to create 2 functions. The first will be save player info, and the second will be load player info. Now inside of save player info, we're going to give this function 2 inputs. The first will be player health, and that's going to be of type integer. The second will be player coins. We'll now drag off of here, and we're going to create save game object. Now this function actually creates an object which will contain whatever information we put inside of it that will be saved as a file later on. Now I actually forgot to specify the class here, so I had to go back and record this. So yeah, we need to set this to save player info. So from here, let's drag off of the return value and promote that to a variable. This will be called player info. This will store that object. Now from here, we're going to cast to save player info. Now as player info, we're going to set each of the 2 variables we created, so the health, and we're going to set the coins as well. And the values we'll set them to will be these 2 inputs coming into the function, so we'll line up the player health and the player coins. Now from here we're going to type save game to slot. The object that we're going to use is the player info object that we just created, so let's line that up. The slot name will be player info. Now from the return value here, we're going to create a branch, and this is essentially asking whether or not the game was saved successfully. So if it was, we're going to print a string which is going to say game saved. If it was not successful, then we will also print a string which will say error, sorry, the game could not be saved. And we'll just kind of line that up. And there we go, that function is complete. Compile and save that. Now we'll go inside of the load player info function. Now this time, instead of having 2 inputs, we're going to actually have 2 outputs. So let's create those. The first will of course be player health, and the second will be player coins. Let's go ahead and break this connection here, place this out of our way. Now from here we're going to ask, does save game exist? The slot we're asking about is player info. Create a branch. So we're asking whether or not it does exist. If it does, or actually if it does not, then we're going to just return a node here with the default value. So the default health is 100 and the default coins is 0. If it does exist, then we're going to load game from slot. The slot name is of course player info. And we're going to set the player info variable here. And then we're going to cast to save player info, which basically allows us to access all of the information that the class contains. So in our case, we want to access the health and coins variables. Line those up, and from here we're going to create a return node and line these up accordingly. Now if the cast fails, we also need to return a node, and we'll just return the default values here. Compile and save. Now let's head over to the event graph, and above the event tick we're going to type event begin play. This event is fired as soon as the character is created. So just drag this load player info function over here. We're going to connect this to the event begin play. And through this function we now have access to all of the information that the player has saved. So down here under player info, you can see that we have these two variables here which keep track of the health and the coins. It's what the widgets that display this information on the screen, that's where they get the information from. That's where this event tick gets the information from, whether or not the player has died. So we're going to set these values here as soon as the game is loaded. So we're going to set the health and the coins. So connect that up, and the values will be the health and coins we got from this function. Compile and save that. Now up here we're going to right click and press K on the keyboard. You can use any key you want. I'm going to use K. So let's drag the save player info function into the screen, connect that here, and the values that we're going to save are the current player health and coins. Compile and save. We're now going to X out of here and go inside of our UI folder and into the death widget. Now this widget here is what is displayed as soon as the player dies, and we're going to grab this respawn button and get the on clicked event. So currently we just have it set so that the level is reloaded as soon as the button is clicked, but we want to add some extra stuff in there. So let's break this link, and we're going to right click and get the player pawn, drag off of the return value, cast to third person character, and as the third person character we're going to get the player coins, and we'll just line this up, and we need to drag off of here and execute the save player info function. We'll set the player health to 100, and we'll set the player coins to the current amount of coins that we have. Now let's just connect the open level node here, and there we go. Compile and save that. Now if we play the game and we run around and collect some coins, we got 1, 2, 3, let's hit some fire, 4, 5, 6, hit some more fire, and there we go. Our health is pretty low now. Let's grab the 7th coin and hit this fire, and of course we die. Now if I click respawn now, you'll see it says game saved up at the top left, and it actually saved our coin value. We still have 7 coins. Now I'm going to run around and collect a few more coins. We have 8, 9, and there we go, we have 10. And I'm going to run into this fire here. Let's jump up here, grab a couple more coins, run into this fire. Now you can see that our health is at 50% and we have 12 coins. Now I'm going to press K, and it says game saved. Now if we press escape and click play again, you'll see that everything loads just where we saved it. So we have 50% health and we have 12 coins. Alright, there we go. The player stats are now saving and loading seamlessly. So yeah, if you're creating a similar setup in your own project, then hopefully this gives you some ideas on how to integrate an effective save game system under those circumstances. If you enjoyed the video, then drop a like, and more tutorials are definitely on the way, so subscribe to stay tuned. This is CodeViper, and until next time.